What is up, you guys? Welcome back to Twink Revolution. I'm Sam.
And I'm Gian. We're joined by Jack and Ortant from the Perfume Nationalist. Hi, guys. How's it going?
Hi.
So, those who are not familiar with Perfume Nationalist, it's a wonderful sort of culture and perfume podcast. Jack has come and joined us before, but this is Ortant's first time on a podcast. It's your first time appearing together, right?
Yeah, it's our first time as a pair going on another show.
That's exciting.
It is exciting.
And you guys are not co-located currently, right? You always record your podcast remote from each other?
No, we're both in Texas, but I'm in Houston and Jack is in Austin, and we've always done it remote. We actually did one in my house together, but we were in separate rooms, still doing it over VoIP. We've never done one together.
Now people are always asking to come on and do one in person if they come to Austin, and I start sweating, the meme of the Star Wars guy, just I don't know, headphone splitter. I don't know what that is. Yeah.
Well, and so those who sort of might know a bit about you guys would know that sort of, we don't probably share a lot of deep political commitments, probably a lot of aesthetic ones, but not many deep political ones. Is that fair to say?
Well, we've never talked about it. We should really sort this out right now. I want to know what we're doing here.
Now's the moment.
A dialogue.
We're just here to scream at you for being Nazis for the next hour. That's all we're doing.
We got some words for you, boys. I'll tell you what.
Well, so the thing is, we'd been planning to do this for a little while. It's just always fun to get to hang with you guys. We came on your show and got to talk about Midnight Cowboy, and
which I think was the first time we did a podcast mashup. If this is our first time being together somewhere else, I think y'all were our first mashup podcast gangbang, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, and since our podcast is inspired by Knots Landing, which is a spinoff of Dallas, I love the whole idea of crossovers and other shows and people having an unimaginable amount of content they have to keep up with in order to cancel everyone effectively.
Exactly. No, the content generation machine must go brr. But
y'all did a 3-part episode. I haven't listened yet, but yeah. I was my jaw dropped when I saw this. I love that.
Yeah, I was so drunk during the last 2 hours where I don't remember anything I said.
Well, yes, we're podcast sluts and we will talk to anybody, but we always have a good time with you boys. And it just so happens that given just how the world has all changed, as AOC told us today. Half our legislators almost died the other day. So I feel like it's such a good opportunity. We're starting the healing. This is where we reforge America, a more perfect union.
Dude, if it could look like this, man, and seriously, it could. I don't. Anyway,
it should look like this, because everyone in this little kind of part of Twitter is the people who are the legitimate live and let live, smart people who have found a way forward. So we are actually the model for good future. I think.
I don't know if anybody remembers, but you used to be able to coexist with a diverse allotment of individuals, all different kinds of people. Everybody seemed to be able to find something together.
Holy shit, where's the deplatform button? We can't have him saying this on fuck. Apple's going to pull us right now for that comment. So I we drew you in just because we want to hang out, really. But there is a purpose to all of this, because we watched what might be
purpose.
Yeah, that's true. Not merely fixing our broken country. We're fixing our broken country by doing the most American thing, consuming media that is just objectively terrible. Wonder Woman 1984. What did you think, boys?
So I've got to confess, I don't have, obviously this is terrible, but I don't have any particular animosity for it as I do for basically all movies that have come out since 2015. I think that what saves it and keeps it good-natured for me is that I like Gal Gadot because she has a pleasant kind of retardedness that like she just seems like a nice, pretty, retarded person. And my boyfriend pointed out that she would have done well in the 80s, the age of like Brigitte Nielsen, and those sword and sorcery movies that had like 6 foot tall women with foreign accents who can't act like. And my favorite part of the movie is that first lunch that she has with Kristen Wiig, who's 52 years old and playing a part that would have gone to an 18-year-old ingenue at any point before 2017. And she goes, ha ha ha, no one's made me laugh like that before.
Well, a few sort of maybe meta observations about this movie. It's expensive, but it looks cheap. The whole thing looks like, so it's set in the 80s. It's Wonder Woman in the 80s. A lot of CGI that looks like absolute dog shit. And then
why was it set in the 8? Did anybody figure out, is there some Wonder Woman factoid that we're like, why is it Wonder Woman 1984?
Why was the last one set in World War I or whatever? Like, none of this ever made sense, except that somebody really wanted to do like wet, hot American summer style set dressing, because that's what it looks like. It's that level of like, it looks like some of the sort of an amateur theater production where they're like, let's do the 80s. I've got some like highlighter spandex tights somewhere. Great, we're done.
Let's do the 80s, but we got to make sure that the girls don't look freaky like in the 80s. Like, the girls still have to look cute, like they could be on Instagram. They can't actually look like it's the 80s.
Yeah, we'll tease some hair, and that's it. That's your hat tip for the 80s. Oh, and Frankie Goes to Hollywood will play once.
Yeah, there's a conspicuous lack of 80s music. You just don't know where the money even went in this movie, which makes it feel like it's just a big money laundering operation. And like, which makes sense because isn't Gal Gadot some sort of like Mossad prostitute that like
that's
got
the
these movies
allegation?
in a deal?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, which I believe and I like her. But like that mall, okay, for $200 million, you can't just build a whole 80s mall set. That was clearly just one of the last remaining malls with a brown stripe put on it. And, the same kind of like teal gray color scheme that all malls have been redone to have now. I was like, this is supposed to be the first big set piece of the movie after that, whatever, when she's a kid on the horse. And it's just, so it looks like the mall here in Austin that was recently redone. Like,
well, so maybe Sam, maybe you can take us through that opening scene. What the fuck was going on? Because it's funny you say set.
Sam knows.
Sam knows.
You know what's going on.
Sam knows what's going on. I've felt faith. Yeah, well, so the movie just lurches from set piece to set piece, and the first opening one is just bonkers.
So it's her as a child in this like lesbian commune, basically competing against like women who are double her age, and it's like, oh, she can compete with them. You see horrible CGI water and landscapes where I'm like, was this like the part where they cheaped out and spent it all on like Gal Gadot? It was like horrible acting.
The money is going somewhere else. I don't know. Like that $10 million was spent making the actual movie, and the rest it didn't even go to theaters, or I guess it's in whatever few remaining theaters, but the remaining $180 million was spent on run through the laundry machine.
Well, the modern jet fighter that sort of appears, that they literally built that. They paid for that. I think they spent $300 million on a modern jet fighter, and the rest of it was just whatever they could sort of scrape off the cutting room floor.
I also love the like utter lack of diversity compared to the first movie, which I also was forced to watch, not by choice, which at least had like some like mainish kind of like POC characters. And here it's like you see like the one black girl in the very end, she's the one that wins, and it's like, why was this like? There's what's going on? Like, just very like none of the characters were ever really relevant in most of the movie. Like even boyfriend, I feel like they could have cut out his entire storyline and it wouldn't have made a difference, because she's like, oh, I don't think we should get rid of the wishes, and then like 2 seconds later, like, okay, let's do it. And it's like, so why is he in the fucking movie? Like, what is his point? Like,
look, it's reactionary at this point to even give her a love interest, because like no other new movies like featuring like badass females even like give them a love interest, because it opens them up to criticisms of misogyny and that women have any interest in romance or anything besides like STEM, rocket science and everything.
Well, I have a hypothesis about the romantic subplot that speaks to the metatextual reading of the whole movie, but just that initial set piece as well. Just it's like
a world of women. Is there Wonder Woman lore that? I mean, obviously there's Wonder Woman lore that I don't know. Does she come from a planet of women, or is it like South America? Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's the lost Amazonian warrior women.
Yeah.
And they're all horse girls because they're just like, it's just the only thing they didn't CGI in that entire sort of opening action set piece was just a bunch of fucking like elaborate horse riding shit, and you're like, what? This just never comes up again. And then she, whatever, yada yada yada, long action sequence, like 15 minutes at the opening of this movie, and then it's just a solid 5 minutes of that is just her getting lectured by some older woman, her mentor or whatever from the last movie, just speaking in fortune cookie like fortunes. It's all just like, your heart was not ready to win. And like,
one thing was really telling about like, these kick-ass girl movies like this. She said true heroes are not born from lies, and that entire opening sequence was like levels of athleticism that are probably a big lie.
That's the case with all of these movies, and the only ones of which I've seen are the first Wonder Woman and I think Deadpool. And since 2010, if you show like women fighting or anything, they just have to have like that rubbery video game, like darting around like supernatural strength. And they never get hurt except for like the one cut on their face. If you show them getting hurt at all, it's like disturbing misogyny. So it is all built on a total lie.
I just can't believe that was right there in the beginning. Like,
yeah.
Anyway.
I like seeing Robin Wright really phoning it in. I like seeing good actors put in these humiliating positions where they have to wear the sword and sandal stuff and say their stupid little fortune cookie lines and take that, $800,000 check for the one day of work.
Well, I like the idea that she was paid $299 million to be in this movie, and that explains. No, I'm just guessing.
Oh yeah, they just got to get her. They got to spend that money somehow. But I've always liked seeing good actors humiliated and stuff like this that they make their real money from.
Yeah. Well, so then we move on from that wonderful little sword and sandals kind of set piece into the modern day. That is 1984.
For some reason.
Never explained. And it's Kristen Wiig is what's the woman version of like a Chad? Is that a Stacy or whatever?
Yeah.
It's basically like it's a lot of 80s like bright colors and like, oh look, a Walkman, oh look, on roller skates, like just sort of set dressing, kind of awful. And then you've got Gal Gadot turns up, kicks some ass, is a girl boss, and is the Stacy, and then Kristen Wiig is like the virgin.
But also right there, when you immediately jump into the future in 1984, there's like some men who are driving a car and like carelessly
littering.
Yeah, like it's like right when you jump to 84, they're already like, look at the men.
Yeah. Well, and right after we meet the bad men, the MacGuffin is introduced. And this is a movie. Are you familiar? Sam's looking at me quizzically.
I don't know what the MacGuffin is.
A MacGuffin is a sort of an object in a movie that is sort of used to propel the plot forward, whether it's sort of actually directly related to the plot or not. Okay. And so it's the fucking crystal thing.
Oh yeah,
that's the crystal, right? There's like everything that happens in this movie is because they're looking for the crystal, they found the crystal, they lost the crystal.
Oil company making a commune.
Yeah, it's communism, but it's not. It's all very confusing. But anyway, Kristen Wiig and Gal Gadot work together at the Smithsonian through a heist that Gal Gadot foils. the Smithsonian comes into possession of a smuggled crystal that they think has no value, but it grants wishes if you hold it. And
wishes. So this plot is on the level of the Care Bears movies from the 80s, which I have fond memories of. So I like just the most bare bones things that can be translated into any language, and people don't have to understand anything that's going on or listen to it or barely even look at the screen. It's just like you look up and you see a crystal with that ominous chord, and you hear someone say the word wish, and then made the wish that's aligned with big oil or whatever, you know.
Well, and then I think the they do it a little later, but the big ominous chord happens. The monkey paw doesn't literally curl, but like it. They then later in the movie they're like the monkey claw. It's so anyway, it's literally it's a monkey's paw that grants wishes, but it just so happens that it's a crystal that also looks cheap in 80s. They didn't spend all the money on that fucking crystal prop, that's for sure.
No, it looked like it was from At Home, and it would be like chipped and broken, and you'd have to like ask someone to find one that wasn't broken if you wanted to buy it.
Well, and then we come to what I think is the most important scene in the movie, which is Gal Gadot, you know, girl boss Gal Gadot, powerful, sexy, confident, self-assured, and Kristen Wiig, who is bumbling, awkward, you know, mousy. They have this incredibly lesbian-coded dinner scene.
Oh man, yeah.
And they're just staring at each other, and like, it's just there's long pregnant pauses, and a lingering kind of like non-conversation that almost just is always like the frisson of sexuality emerging between these women. And then the obvious like kind of 50s, like, was it the Hays Code or whatever, like she asks very deliberately after you know her man. So she's sort of like, oh, did you have a husband or whatever? Did you have a boyfriend? And so this is the crux of the movie. It's a lesbian, like, a yearning movie.
Well,
it's funny because like we don't actually have lesbian movies anymore. Like lesbian stuff was huge in the 2000s, along with the like female bisexuality craze and male bisexuality craze to a lesser degree. But like ever since Blue is the Warmest Color, which was one of the greatest lesbian movies of all time, came out and caused this huge controversy because lesbians really hated it because it was sexy and made by a man. And had some libido to it and depicted them as just like fighting endlessly, as is the reality. There haven't really been lesbian movies since then. And so it's kind of funny that it's returned to this, like, as you said, like Hays Code,
yeah,
kind of strangers on a train. Like,
well, in a way, it kind of comes to completion because at the end, like, Kristen Wiig's, is it Kristen Wiig or Kirsten Wiig?
Don't care.
I don't care.
Kirsten Wiig.
He becomes Cheetah, which is like her character from like.
Why does she
comics.
become a cheetah?
Well, that's what her name is. It's like a superhero, supervillain, but like she's a cat, and Gal Gadot is beating the cat, and then at the very end,
smashing pussy.
If you think about it, the guy, they don't show him disappearing, but here she like fixates on like, oh, come back to me, like don't do it. There's more lesbianic vibes in the end because like, she's like.
Yeah, if you take all the stupid like supernatural superhero nonsense out of this movie, all the magic crystal bullshit, it literally, the sequence goes, Gal Gadot is hot and sexy, Barb, her name is or whatever, perfect 80s movie stand-in generic name. Barb has the hots for her. There's sexual tension develops. Then Gal Gadot's old fling turns back up, her old man, who she thought was dead, but he gets wished back to life. Jilted Barb then goes evil and starts trying to ruin her world and just be psycho. And then, eventually the conflict, is prosecuted. And that's the movie. That's it.
Yeah.
There's some other fucking bullshit with like flying superheroes and shit. Who cares?
Really, my kind of critical eye for acting, like I really enjoy Gal Gadot's style of acting here more than the kind of like gimmicky Meryl Streep, like both eyes twitching in different directions, like what people consider good acting. Like I found her in this movie like quite hypnotic because she feels just like dropped in by a helicopter for the scenes, and you can't imagine her like interacting with Kristen Wiig or any of the like regular Americans here. Yeah, you can imagine her sort of like sending them like a nice gift basket and then being like, oh, she's nice. But like her being just some very strange foreign presence dropped in. I quite like her.
Could we talk about the accents? That everybody in this movie has an accent?
I don't.
From Nowhereistan. Like nobody has the same accent. They just all have accents from nowhere,
including the assistant to like the oil like billionaire.
The oil billionaire sounds like he's from What the Fucksville.
Yeah,
Gal Gadot's weird. Like everyone's just speaking with accents for no reason.
That's the only thing to me that feels like an authentic, like big budget botched movie. I really, this is kind of like moving away from the bizarre accents, but the thing I found myself enjoying this movie because it was a beautifully managed mess.
Yeah.
Like I was thinking like, you know, it's not like the boom is showing up in the frame or anything because it can't because of computers. And it's not as like jerkily edited together as like Dune or something, but it's just like this really beautifully managed mess. Like it's a really professional piece of shit.
Well,
I've got to say, I saw the first one in the movie theater, and the first one, whatever constitutes the like critical establishment of like movies right now, like they were favorable of it. Like people were generally favorable.
Yeah,
it has like the rigged like 8 out of 10 on Rotten Tomatoes. It was considered, they liked it because it had Patty Jenkins as the director, who's had some kind of like indie cred because she made Monster, which is a movie I really like, which, you know, depicts lesbians as like monstrous and hideous. And so it was like, it elevated itself with the critics above the usual like Marvel thing, but I saw it and like thought it was still like absolute shit, but like her charmingly alien acting and the fact that it didn't seem too hip or too like smart or too like like it was sold as some kind of like feminist thing because of the times we live in, but it didn't seem to really succeed or know what it was supposed to do. Nope. Like, but I still enjoyed it. I felt this was exactly like the same thing. Like, I don't think this is really any different from the first one.
Yeah. Well, the reason I brought that up is the only thing that stuck out to me as like feeling like a real mistake, like a boom in the frame was the accents. I'm failing to come up with like a movie other than Dune, which is I always reference for everything because it's like my entire brain. But like just the bizarre, made up, non-existent like rainbow of stupid accents is the only thing that. I mean, everything looks like terrible CGI crap these days. But those was that their diversity?
Yes.
Like made up
accents? There's not really a lot of sort of actual diversity in this movie, but I mean it's what they've moved on from is like just having Jeremy Irons like use a British accent to be a Russian bad guy or a French bad guy or whatever. Like it's kind of the same thing, but they're all using some like weird like international finance trader who grew up in Zurich and went to boarding school in London or something.
The diversity was
Gian,
like
you could have a career in the James Bond movies as the coded gay villain with an ambiguous accent.
Mr. Bond.
Well, they had diversity. They had like the Mayan guy who had the Crystal Prior, who looks like a man, like a white man in blackface with like horrible dreads, and then like this random like Asian child to this white like oil like tyrant, and it's like, okay, are you gonna like show us like usually they show the wife or something to make sense? Like, oh wait, is this supposed to be? Is the child supposed
she's
to be
Asian?
Is it supposed to be Asian, or is it just like a random child? Like, we don't know. Like,
it's some casting director. This is why I sort of loved like the meta text reading this movie is like some casting director was just like fuck it. There are 300 different scenes in this movies with like actors who never meet each other. We're just like, I don't give it. Like they're so far down the list. They're like, I don't give a shit. I'm trying to do this on Zoom or whatever. Like I don't give a fuck anymore.
It's
whatever.
really interesting that they make these things just so long now, because like, you know, a big theme of what we do is like appreciating things that are long and boring.
Yeah.
And all of these like kind of hated Marvel products and franchise movies are so insanely long now. I think like Lord of the Rings and the Harry Potter movies like kind of normalized making everything 3 hours long and like taking the kids to something that long and uneventful. But like, what fills that space? You see the running time of like 2 hours and 35 minutes, but I have no memory of like the sequence of events, what led to what.
Why
something filled
happened.
all that time.
But it's frenetic. That's the thing. And I think that's the difference between maybe the sort of the boring media, you know, the long and boring stuff you enjoy, is that it like leaves that room for breathing. Even like the Lord of the Rings, which, you know, whatever you want to say about that, but like it kind of leaves a lot of space in it. You know, here's a set piece, then there's travel, journey, growth, whatever, and then another set piece or another action sequence, and then more growth. This is just like set piece, set piece, set piece, pithy one-liner, set piece, set piece, set piece. Just
which basically
never
ends
relents.
up being white noise.
It is, exactly. There's no emotional sort of like tenor throughout this movie that ever changes. It's just like crank that volume up to 11 in that first sequence and just keep it there. Just sustained attention.
Something that like, since movie attendance was dwindling even before COVID ended movies, like, is it something to make people feel like they got their money's worth, since it takes up like half of your day to go see this stuff? Like, I don't understand, since everybody only watches dips into the first 15 minutes of everything now and has this social media attention span. Why is every Marvel movie 3 hours long? And that like last one that like brought all the 46 plot lines together was like 3 hours and 20 minutes. Like,
yeah, I don't know who this is for, but I mean, I guess people are going to see them. But
Dude, that was the during the lesbian lunch scene.
Yeah.
Who is this movie for? I mean, like right off, you know, off the bat, you can be like, this movie's for girls. I'm like, that's true, but
is it?
No, I don't know who it's for.
Well, it has a lot of action scenes that are literally like lifted directly from every DC and Marvel movie. Fuck it, not even that. It's lifted from like Die Hard, like in terms of just like the fight scene of like, yeah, they're slugging it out, but it's like two girls doing it. But it's kind of just even like the way it's presented, the choreography of the fights or whatever, of which there are many, all of which are pointless, and there's never any dramatic tension in it. It's so it has the classic structure. What would be like a dude's rock action movie of the 90s.
Well, past the point of like the entry scene of like her fighting the mall like robbers, and the little like girl being like, "Wow," that's when it ends for the feminist like plot line. It's like after that's like, "Oh, we're extremely intelligent women. We're working at Smithsonian, but we're gonna talk about dick and like how beautiful each other are, and the most vain things ever." And it's like it is beat the shit out of each other. It's like past that point,
ideal relationship.
It just like they would not pass the Bechdel test. I'm pretty sure. Like they just only can talk about dick and like wanting to be pretty and well liked. Like that's it.
The feminist plotline continues just in the look of Gal Gadot's face throughout the whole thing. Like she looks like she's walking around with a clipboard. Like she looks like she's in charge, like a boss, like she's going somewhere. So I think it continues just in her face, which never changes.
But the thing that I appreciated about this and the first one is that it feels like, okay, everybody, like the average, most apolitical person understands like woke compliance rules and could craft something that's more convincingly 2010s feminist than both of the Wonder Woman movies, which feel like they were just made by like untalented aliens that are like trying to piece together from like Twitter threads or something, like how do we make this for feminists? Like, you know, like we have to make girl power movie. Like,
well, And so the other thing I noticed about this, because it is so to advance this through the plot a little further,
There's a plot?
yeah, well, kind of. The MacGuffin stone, which is a symbol of their blossoming lesbian love, somehow gets transformed into the person of an evil oil grifter tycoon or something. He's sort of like the ultimate 80s business guy, but not rendered in any detail. He's a sketch of a character.
Dude, I hate to go there. Is he supposed to be Trump?
I think there was maybe a bit of that, wow, a well-coiffed, slimy 80s guy.
Well, he wants to give everyone their fantasy wish. I don't know.
I think
he was
you're
the
right.
failed business guy who later takes the power from the president at the very end. So it actually is kind of Trump. I didn't that's bad. I didn't even think about that.
No, I think.
But they still
right.
it still feels like they know well enough that the actual Latinx Trump supporting working class will be the people who go see this movie. Right. So they don't want to make it too obvious.
Yeah.
Well, and so they cast a guy who was, I believe, Chilean American or something. So that's his accent there.
Is Baron supposed to be the little Asian boy?
Yeah, that's Baron.
His houseboy.
Yeah. So whatever. He basically gets turned into a fucking genie.
Oh, he wishes for more wishes.
Yeah, exactly.
See, if you ever get a chance, if you find a lamp, you wish for more wishes.
Yeah, I don't. It's the first movie with a sort of a genie plot where that works. But apparently that worked. But
they went there.
The monkey paw, it curls, and whatever you get, it takes something of equal value away from you. Ooh.
Which is never explained. Did y'all notice that? You're 2 hours into it, and you're like, wait, why is he getting things from the? Am I stupid?
Yeah.
Did they never mention that?
No, I had to pause it and say to Sam and my husband and say, what is he wait, did I miss something? Was on my phone, why is he doing this? And they're like,
they never tell you.
He's getting something from them. And I was like, oh, that's weird. But basically the most baffling part about all of this is that this is a movie where, as a result of people's wishes, the world is going fucking crazy. A wall springs up around half of Egypt, I believe, which, walls in the Middle East, Gal Gadot, all felt a little poor taste, but let's move on from that. I don't know, fucking matter is being rewritten in the universe. Just magic is real now. We're in the perfect magical realist universe. But actually, the central plot is driven forward by about some really convoluted scheme about oil securities and trading oil futures or something. And I was like, how do you make a movie this fucking boring?
Have y'all seen the much maligned Halle Berry Catwoman movie with Sharon Stone?
I actually like it.
Yeah,
I like Sharon Stone as the villain making poison makeup because that's something that girls can actually relate to, as opposed to this oil stuff. But that was similar to this, and that was almost 20 years ago. That was 2002, and they were like, "This is the worst movie ever," and now they're trying to make the case that this is the worst movie ever, but it's not at all,
But it's
funny to see Halle Berry Catwoman become the norm.
But it has all of those. I think that's exactly right. I'm sure it kind of owes a debt to that, but it's every one of those movies just mashed together. It has some element of the kind of Thanos, whatever, final confrontation, dematerializing shit or whatever. It has the Catwoman kind of girl boss, scrappy fighting stuff. And then it has the Spider-Man, what's the one with where his best friend becomes evil and corrupted by power. And so the moral of the story is absolute power corrupts absolutely, and you can't get what you wish for, and love conquers all, and truth will it's as though somebody sort of fed all those scripts into an AI and just this is what popped out.
But the dominant thing that I came away with from this movie and what I think about endlessly is just how people's ages have changed. Obviously, post Weinstein, feminists have taken over the casting rooms, and now every woman that's cast as like 47. And as Samim said, adorkable. 40 something adorkable woman is the norm for every female role until the end of time because of Me Too. But literally, like in Sunset Boulevard, Gloria Swanson is 50 years old, and she's supposed to be like the oldest person who ever lived, like the hag of all time. And in this, Kristen Wiig is 47, and she's playing an adorkable cutie at the office who feels awkward because no one notices her because she's weird. And you just think like 47, like people like the Wojak meme of like when my parents were 23, they were doing this. And like, you know, Kristen Wiig at literally 50 years old is like being adorkable and awkward. In this movie, and she looks great, but whatever. Everybody looks great. But
CGI, that's where the budget went.
They at least like went with like a sex symbol, like that we can kind of like all understand. It's like, yes, like Kristen Wiig is like keeping it like spot on, like the skin tight like cat suit and like the high heels and shit. Like everyone agrees, like yes, that's very sexy. Versus like I think a few years ago it was like being told endlessly these actors are like beautiful regardless of how they look, and it's like no one believes that. We're kind of past that. We can't
a
buy
victory
anymore.
for conventional beauty standards.
Yeah.
Well, Kristen Wiig is actually talented, and she was actually funny when she emerged on SNL, and she you know, she was someone that was unique, but she was very quickly, because of the 2010s, overexposed to this degree that you could not watch any movie without her playing the adorkable, you know, hasn't met a man yet, just feels a little awkward type of woman for like literally 10 years. And so that's created a kind of Kristen Wiig backlash in the public mind. But like, no, she is talented. She is funny. She is pretty. But yeah, it's just weird that this is also a very similar to the feminist Ghostbusters.
I never saw it.
Me either.
I saw it in the theater. It was god awful, but it was the same thing as this.
Right. Yes, that it did have. I think the trailer to that had the sort of adorkable like pushing your glasses up awkwardly as you like drop your papers and you clump in your high heels, which this movie definitely did several times. That was the first hour. What I thought was funny for a movie that is 3 hours, the actual sort of the reveal, I guess what you would call the sort of the climax of the movie, which I'll get to as well. No sex in this movie. They could have just shoved one sex scene in there, but it's for children, so...
There's no sex in any movies. You saw that viral tweet from a few weeks ago. That was that guy being like, sex has never advanced a plot line ever. No one has ever needed to see a sex scene in any movie ever. And this tweet was liked by like, you know, thousands of flesh and blood living human beings. And, you know... I've been saying people like liberals and everyone has this crazy anti-sex perspective about movies. Like you would think that with the 2010s, like sex worker, OnlyFans, whatever grotesque kind of sexual liberation atmosphere, people would be okay with watching sex scenes from movies. But it's actually the most like repressive and censored moment we've ever lived in. You know, for the movies, nothing can have any kind of sexualized female nudity, erotic female nudity. There can be no sex scenes. Even like the HBO sex scenes that are touted as graphic are so like cocksock kind of like just, you know, new kind of Skinamax. Like there's no sex in anything mainstream at all.
I'm just imagining now, you know, that tweet. The 8-minute critically acclaimed Lars von Trier short film Nymphomaniac.
Well, okay, you go back to the 70s and the 80s, and literally every mainstream huge actor was doing full frontal nudity in a cold room, and their dick looks really small. And here we don't have any kind of nudity except like these like plastic dicks and HBO stuff, and like even that's going away because people on both sides of the political spectrum just like hate sex scenes in movies. They don't like being reminded of sex ever.
Well, it's what they always have to do. I realize like all those HBO sex scenes have exactly one trick, which is a woman bare-breasted, directly light, like really, really direct, harsh lighting on her breasts as she sort of rides cowgirl and in a sort of like rhythmic, taking the ferry across to across the English Channel, kind of gentle rocking. And
it can never be the actual star that you care about seeing nude in a movie. It's just some exhibitionist that was hired off a Craigslist ad that's like in the background, in like the Ari Aster movies, they all have the kind of like Rosemary's Baby, like nude Satanist in the background. You're supposed to be like, oh my God. It's like, no, this isn't exciting when it's just people hired from a Craigslist ad to be nude in a movie. Like, I want to see the star nude.
With like the way, saturation of availability of pornography, there's less need to jack off to movies like Wonder Woman 1984.
And yet I managed it somehow. So
I actually could have used some nice pretty lady scenes in this picture.
I don't even know in my head what size breasts Gal Gadot has. That's how covered up this movie is.
They're CGI. I mean, she's under CGI armor, like cheap looking CGI armor, the entire thing that is inexplicably form-fitting, but also incredibly concealing of any
She has
anatomy.
a giant head. I know that. She's 6 feet tall and has a giant head that's like that head in Prometheus. But and she looks like, next to her boyfriend in the movie, like they're trying to make him look taller and he looks like really small and wimpy because he's a Hollywood actor.
What's he from? He seems like a bootleg.
Star Trek.
Oh,
Captain fucking Kirk, Chris Pine.
He's the adorable male in the Star Trek.
Some sort of like bootleg star from the 90s or something.
He is, yeah. He could kind of be like Devon Sawyer or somebody like that, but like grown up.
He's also like 52 and he's regarded as like a young sex symbol because no one gets old anymore.
And so he was like in a quantum leap situation, right?
Yeah. He woke up in somebody else's body and is actually her long dead lover from the first movie.
For no reason.
She wished it. She wished for him to have him back. Yeah. Why he's in a different body, I don't know, because apparently like matter, the laws of time and space don't apply here. But just on that last point, I think we will slog through this movie, but we'll offer some punch ups. But I did think it would be sort of a more perfect sort of feminist statement, given they were sort of being like, we're going to do the girl boss version of a manly action movie, which is like analytically what this was. I think it would have been very, very funny if they just put in a lot of male nudity, just like dicks everywhere. The female cast commenting on the size of their male cast members. Maybe a gay sex scene, just for the ladies.
Like the wish scene where people are making wishes about the world. Like, why was there no scene where she's like, I wish my coworkers were all naked and all these like hot men are just like dicks dangling? Or
when the entire world starts being granted wishes through the machinations of the evil oil guy.
There were some omissions there.
Yeah, well, everyone surely should have been like just giant dicks. It should just be everyone on the couch, just like with their pants swelling inexplicably.
Nobody's wish is to like stop time and undress everyone they know.
No.
Yeah.
No, just there's we should talk about that. In fact, what the movie in the movie universe, when every single human on Earth through a government satellite program based on Star Wars technology, another 80s hat tip there, fellas, are suddenly the guys there, sucking up their life essence. But granting every wish to everybody all at once. And it's like this fast-paced montage of like, there's a waitress in a restaurant in China saying, I wish I was famous. And then suddenly there's a bunch of fans pressing against the window trying to take her picture or something. And then,
an Irish guy.
Oh, God. They just do race war.
Yeah.
Out and out race war. Yeah. What
it's
is
like an Apple ad or a oil company ad, actually. Like one of those weird, like Anadarko ads or something.
Oh, she's like, I wish your type would go back to your country, and all these like, Irish men just started getting arrested. And it's like, why is there so many Irish men for one here? But like, where's all these like pre-ice trucks come from?
magic.
She created ice, and then she died.
Yes, yeah. Then I think he wishes she was dead, and then so she just drops dead. This is just sort of random, unnamed characters. I'm trying to remember what else happens there. Somebody says, "I wish I was king." a terrorist, like an Arab-coded terrorist, wishes he had nukes.
Yes,
which I think is great.
Who wished they were king?
It was some random. It was meant to be somebody in on the continent of Africa. It helpfully informed us. Just there. I mean, put it this way: these stereotypes. If this is not coming through a major studio, I would be like, I'm uncomfortable with some of the racial and kind of identitarian implications of this movie. It's not great. There's
Well, it's funny. There's also like the Cold War rhetoric, which is really popular in like superhero movies. Like there was the X-Men one where like they had the whole scene in like Cuba and the missile crisis.
Yeah.
And this one's like, oh, we're gonna mention the Soviet Union joined this new like weird kingdom on the side. Well, the U.S. went with the good old government, and then they mention like, oh, the Soviets are shooting the nukes. Like President Reagan wished to put them all on there. It's like. It is very like Cold War propaganda, and also like her as like one of a horrible like Israeli like Amazon accent saving like two little Arab children in like the middle of Egypt, and then their mom's like in a full like burqa, and it's like okay.
There's just a lot going on in terms of the sort of geopolitical reading, but yeah, like the wishes people are wishing for are honestly incredibly mundane and boring.
I would believe that modern people have wishes that are boring like this. Like I wish to see all Nazis deplatformed from Twitter, like that kind of thing.
Fuck,
but not in 1984.
True.
In 1984, it'd be like, I wish that I could, be Rick James and have sex with 300 women in one night. Like,
I wish my Walkman battery
2021, it would be
2 hours.
like, I wish that, this post-leftist would have their Instagram deleted or
I wish I could get the Red Scare podcast account banned.
Which I thought that was Meg anyway. Why are people talking about it like Anna was banned? She deactivated.
Yeah.
I thought the Red Scare podcast account was Meg from way back. This is deep lore. Sorry.
No, I think you're right. but there was no. This is true.
Red Scare is like my Wonder Woman 1984. I'm like,
yeah, if we're talking about
like a nerd.
If we're talking about a movie, or just a media franchise where you have sort of two powerful women, in just fighting it out, and the rest of us looking on in awe. Then watch Red Scare,
It'd be much better. Wonder Woman is like Anna, and then like Dasha is like the cheetah chick. It'd be great. I think it'd be spot on.
Yeah, perfect.
Have y'all, I don't know anyone who's ever seen like the Brie Larson one of these, because Brie Larson was launched so specifically to be like the totally most boring and like unattractive, like feminist compliant, kind of unappealing, uncharismatic 2010 star, and then they gave her that movie. I don't know anyone that's ever seen it.
Was it Supergirl or whatever?
It's Captain Marvel. I believe.
No.
I wonder how that compares.
I feel like I probably should have said this earlier, but I fucking hate superhero movies.
Yeah,
like they're not good. So I was never gonna like this movie. I mean, we went into this knowing that it was going to be bad, but I didn't expect it to be
this bad.
It's just so cheap. It's only expensive because if you just take like minutes, like dollars per minute of film.
Yeah.
I don't even know what an expensive movie in 2010 that actually looked like its budget would look like, because
they all look the same. It looked
everything
exactly
is either,
like anything on streaming.
It's this, or it's the streaming tier stuff where they clearly just like rent a house in LA and film a horror movie in it, and that's it, for a weekend.
Was the money spent on like computer like I don't even know, there used to be like warehouses of silicon graphics machines, but I don't think that's the case anymore.
Well, but if the people who are doing that stuff, I think like there's that whole like Weta Workshops, Weta Digital, like Lord of the Rings and its successors, like something Peter Jackson's making money off. And that's even shit like Game of Thrones, which I know they kind of like cheaped out at the end or something, but like that stuff does look better on screen. It looks filmic. And like the Lord of the Rings movies themselves, or what are some of the other ones they did? Like anything where it's like fucking orcs and bullshit, like rampaging over mountains. It always kind of looks fine. Like it looks good. It looks right on screen. Then there's the Spider-Man, whoever did the Spidey, this breakdancing Spidey Sony Pictures era. where he just looks like he's made out of goo, like a bag of goo that kind of just slops around. And kind of they'll always do that one action where he has to grab a pole and swing around, and like it stretches out like one of those giant like slinkies. It looks like a fluid dynamics like simulation demo.
Bad CGI from the late 90s and early 2000s looks cool now. Just like PlayStation 1, like those generation of graphics look really cool now and stylized. But like this kind of like what they normally do now. What's an example of like good cutting edge modern CGI? Because every like new movie that's really reliant on CGI that I've seen looks like this, where it's just like that rubbery bouncing around. The really, that's the big thing, is they have the character like bounce around with a spear, like
right.
Everything looks like this.
Yeah, what are those? Do you remember? Fuck, this is going back in time. Just because we're on a nostalgia kick for the 80s.
1984.
There's what were those like? I guess there's like 90s, early 90s-ish toys, which was like a jelly type hand thing that you would sort of like stretch and it would slap and stick to things.
And they got hair all over them.
Immediately covered in pet hair and dust or whatever. All CGI looks like one of those now. That's sort of like the look. So I think the last thing I saw that looked kind of just acceptable on screen was that Arrival movie, where like the big alien ships just looked like big alien ships. They look good.
Blade Runner 2049, I guess, looked really good. Prometheus, which is at this point like 10 years old, looked really good. It looked like something that was like designed for the CGI era to look good.
Right.
And the answer is probably, well, you don't notice when it's good CGI. Like the answer is probably like the entire movie was filmed on a green screen and you don't even realize it.
The entire Hillary 2016 campaign was actually just done on a computer.
Hey, there was more of the real world in this than there was in Maleficent, which was literally just like Angelina Jolie, the most heinous person on earth, just given a check for $20 million to like stand in front of a green screen, the Alexander McQueen costume for like 3 days. That was like a more cynical product than this.
But do you guys know what I mean by the beautifully managed mess? Like none of the component pieces, like whether you're talking about images or just over time, like the flow of the narrative and the look, everything like fit together and like morphed together really beautifully. Nothing was jarring. It was a really comfortable ride. I don't watch modern movies, so I was just like, wow, this is just, and to make a stupid, like obvious podcast sort of like big brain point, I was like, wow, it's just like, a beautifully managed decline like we're living through right now.
Nice. Hey, that's the sort of shit people turn up to this podcast for. So
that's terrible. That's not even the real take.
No, you're completely right. And my kind of mental test for this shit is always like, I'm not a filmmaker, but this is a movie where you could just grab any one of those sort of standalone set pieces, which always sort of start and finish with them just sort of just like traveling off screen, right? It'll be she starts fucking flying for no reason, or they get in a plane and it's not quite clear where they're going, but then sort of they're at the next scene, they're sort of just walking in through a door. That sort of every scene has a perfect sort of transition that could be coming from anywhere, going to anywhere. And therefore, you could just rearrange this movie into literally any sequence. You could just it'd be actually more fun as like an interactive art piece where you sort of get your own personalized cut of this movie, where they just like cut like the everything before that first scene, before the second to last scene or whatever. They just like scramble it up, and that's your version, your personal Wonder Woman 1984.
I feel like another weird thing about the movie is like the name of the film, Wonder Woman 1984. They never call her Wonder Woman in the entire film. And none of the characters are shocked she is like a superpower being. Like they're like, oh, you're magically magical, and we're not going to actually question this throughout the whole film. And also, like, why is it 1984? Like, are we trying to interpret some like George Orwell in here? Because like,
that's what I was about to say. Is that it never delivers on. We're so 1984 at this point that like making 1984 references is considered uncool.
But it does in a way deliver on it, because everybody getting their wish is this is like a stupid stretch, but like everybody living in their own little fantasy and the world is falling apart. Like your wish and your fantasy. I don't know.
Well, yeah, no, they make a little hat tip to the idea that she knocks out the cameras in the mall scene, and then they have this sort of classic like central casting, like incredulous reporter from the 1980s here. Who was the mysterious woman who stopped these thieves? And we're like, oh, well, there's a moment of tension. Is her identity a secret? Is it at some risk? And then they're like, never mind. Like we shall just drop that on the floor. The movie.
Yeah, there's none of the usual kind of superhero like where they create some citizens in the like Gotham City or whatever that like wonder what's going on. This is just one like just straight shoot.
Yep.
Like that like thing she slides down in the opening like race where nobody questions anything.
Yep.
Nobody really has any problems except that Kristen Wiig felt awkward once. and like that's it.
That's it. And the oil derivatives are spiking because of a lack of explorations or something.
That
like,
commercial, the oil guy villains commercial at the beginning when they first showed the 80s, I thought that like what they were living in was some kind of like planned community.
Yeah.
like that's usually
again.
what that kind of thing like announces. And I was really confused. I was like, what is he talking about? This oil socialism.
yeah.
Like
Venezuela 1984.
but like let's take off our like cool podcaster glasses and like have you ever seen one of these movies in the theater where people like you see this embarrassing rubbery Kristen Wiig dressed as a cat type shit and people are like loving it and going like, get her ass,
yeah,
get her ass. Like, like that's what happens when you go see this at the actual theater.
I went to the Captain. There was the first Captain America was what, like 5-6 years ago now, right?
1,000 years ago.
Yeah. Okay. So that was probably the first like big movie or like not some like art fag thing I ever went and saw in a movie theater in the US. And it was just like that. I mean, it was a packed, like it was probably opening night as well. I was on a date and I went and sort of agreed to go to this movie, kind of not really knowing. I hadn't really gone to a lot of movies in quite a long time. And I went to it and like, I don't even find myself sneering at people who are enjoying it for what it is. No. I'm more just like, what is so wrong with me? Why is it I can't just enjoy this? Why do I demand so much more than I can get?
Yeah, like you go to the Alamo Drafthouse to see this, you're not going to hear that. But if you go to a multiplex, you'll see people with their giant non-iPhone smartphones out the whole time texting. Like they're like
anymore?
droids or what? Yeah, they're whatever, just like a giant phone out the whole time texting everyone they've ever known and like but also screaming along excitedly with like all of these set pieces like they're really invested and also like walking in and out of the theater like 36 times.
I've only ever seen that with like the Purge movies. Like I went to the Purge election year and I love the Purge series. I think it's a masterpiece. It's amazing. And it kind of revives like the Coliseum effect but in a modern era of like just seeing people like butcher each other for like entertainment. And it was just like throughout the whole movie was like whenever they would like kill someone, like yes, and everyone's like, I'm like, it's just the one time it's okay to be cheering, because otherwise they'd be like, shut the fuck up, like I'm trying to watch a movie.
But those movies are like kind of at least those set pieces are genuinely emotionally satisfying. I understand why you would respond that way.
I also like the like general like multiplex like regular person reactions to the Paranormal Activity movies.
Oh God,
which I'm fond of because don't go in there. No, but I'm fond of those because they like trained like regular like teenagers in America to like being bored because nothing happens. It's just like, like security footage for like 80 minutes. And then, they do like a witch thing at the end or whatever. But it's really funny just like watching this like security camera footage of just like some like white bitch like walking in and walking out of a room in a house and people like, oh my God.
It's training you for your future your future job as like a sort of Amazon security guard that just watches the cameras in the factory.
Well, it's like Blair Witch, like where like the whole movie just them wandering through the woods, and at the very end, it's like the slightly scary part, but you actually never see anything. And it's like that kind of is more fulfilling because you're like, oh, okay, I'm not. For this, it was like a lot of stuff going on, but with never actually like finishing a story. It was just like, here's a bunch of nonsense that kind of fits together if you don't actually think about it, and you're never bored. But like, yeah,
I tremendously enjoyed myself. Tremendously is the wrong word. I enjoyed myself more than I thought I would until the last 30 minutes. Like when he's got like the cauldron going in the secret military TV station.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
That got really boring, and I was done and fed up.
That is,
But I actually enjoyed this movie. I kind of felt like one of those people.
No, there was plenty of snappy moments. There were some funny one-liners in it. There were a few of those set pieces. Kind of like, put it this way: if they had just like released any one of those set pieces as like a weird like YouTube originals short or something, I would have been like, oh, that's pretty cool. Like, yeah, okay, there's some conceit behind this.
And okay, I like that I'm seeing a general nostalgia for malls mainstreamed. I'm seeing it everywhere. Like,
is this still Jack? You're any movie that features a mall is a good movie.
No? Well, I mean, I didn't hate it, so yeah,
I
it's
didn't
still
hate
compliant.
it either.
But it's still compliant, but like there is like a kind of mall nostalgia moment going on right now, and you will see the occasional like think piece about like what people lost when they lost the malls and everything. And so it's like nice in a way to see this like opinion that was considered fringe and weird like 2 years ago, where everybody was still like, malls are stupid. I'm a Gen Xer. I hate malls. Consumerism. Regular people go there. I hate it. I'm moving to Austin. And like, it's nice to see something this like dumb and mainstream like speak to people's nostalgia for malls. And I've been seeing it everywhere. Like the Bret Easton Ellis podcast, like he's been doing like chapters of his new book. There was a big giant set piece that lavishly described every aspect of an 80s mall. There was that documentary Jasper Mall, which I was prepared to hate because it did the documentary thing of like showing people with Southern accents like, oh, aren't they funny? But it was actually quite good and really sad. So I like that Wonder Woman 1984 contributed in its small way to the current nostalgia for having malls as a space for social gathering, and
the mall was the real
something
star
we
of
no
this
longer
movie.
have.
I'm surprised there was no product placement during the mall where you just like have them fighting in the food court scene. You just like a Panda Express and like a Taco Bell.
It might have been there. It was
This
hidden
movie
behind
gets
all the
better the
gooey
more we
CGI.
talk about it.
Yeah.
I'm like, I really
I
liked it.
actually liked it.
Well,
Yeah, now I'm liking that it was a shitty modern mall with the Panda Express instead of like a production designed Ryan Murphy mall.
I mean, it was terrible, and I hate the ending to every movie. Like they should just cut every single movie ever. Should just cut in the middle of a frame.
Yep.
No ending. I don't care. The ending was terrible, but I really enjoyed myself. One thing about the mall is that so Wonder Woman shows up there, and then she doesn't show up for like another hour and a half.
Yeah, just not pictured Wonder Woman in Wonder Woman 1984. The ending I think is worth commenting on because there's a beautiful symmetry to this movie in that the first scene is this sort of just completely overlong, overindulgent kind of action sequence with a lot of bad CGI and then a bunch of fortune cookie lines. Well, it ends that way too, where the our oil executive villain is inside the cauldron, as you call it, the giant government TV station that can broadcast wishes across the universe or something. Who gives a shit? And then she's trying to like use her giant whip and trying to get her noodle in, but her noodle's just too limp to make it into the to make it in. It's another, yet again, it's sort of there's a sort of psychosexual penetration thing because of the lesbian subplot. So she can't get her noodle in because it's too limp. And her powers are back, I think, because what you have to do, right, is you have to renounce your wish. You just have to say out to nobody in particular, I renounce my wish, in that accent. And then she's trying to persuade the whole world, speaking through the magic television, as he's saying, make more wishes, ask for more, you can want whatever you want. And then they're just reciting fortune cookie lines back and forth with each other. I wrote a few of them down. We want what we want. Beautiful. And she says, they don't know what you're taking from them. And he says, oh no, sorry. Then she says, don't you have enough? And he says, why not more? That is verbatim the dialogue in the movie. They are just yelling these nonsense lines back and forth at each other, but like in these really tight shots on the face, just like she's just staring at nobody in particular, being like, don't you have enough?
She's great. She has no idea what any of it. She's like Melania. That's I think why I like her. Yeah. She's very Melania Trump, and the immortal line from
Christmas.
This. Who gives a fuck about Christmas? That's like, behind closed doors. That's the most angry she'd ever get. Yeah. But she's still precious and like nice and pretty, and would send you a big gift basket.
They could have at least shown her off.
Yeah. It's the present day that doesn't, where you can't show them off. If this movie had come out in like the mid 90s, there would be like jiggling boobs, some nips.
Yeah. Give us a nip slip.
There's something instead of that stupid costume that you barely ever see. She looked great in the like Parasite Eve white dress with the big slit that's going up her leg. I really do think that she has a charisma that saves this franchise from total obliteration. Because I like watching her and her weird acting, just her weird presence. And this goes back to a few months ago when she put out that Imagine video with all the celebrities.
Man.
And
video.
that was like not really woke compliant, because like modern liberals all know to hate John Lennon and call him a wife beater and everything.
Right.
So even that was like a sort of charmingly clueless gesture from Gal Gadot. But yeah, I really quite like her, and I think that if you really want to stretch, you could probably consider this a bad art movie if you watch the first and the second back to back. So it's as long as Nymphomaniac. It's like 5.5 hours. And then you would be like beaten into submission and you would probably think it's kind of good. But
it would be like a gentle beating. It felt.
Yeah. There's really nothing to hate here.
There was also like, when you're talking about the points where she's like projecting to the audience, she's like, the truth will set you free. And it's basically like their take on like fake news. Because this guy's like Donald Trump's like, fake news doesn't help you. Only the truth will tell you free. Follow into New York Times and CNN tonight.
Well, yes. And then to complete that thought, so it's like all movies, as you were saying, Orton. It's, like they just fucking don't end, or the endings are shit, because that would have been like the climax, right? Everyone lives. I mean, everyone's fine. Nobody dies in this movie except her already dead lover from 80 years ago or whatever, who just disappears off screen. But then they have to tack on like 3 epilogues, basically. And the first one is like the reuniting of the oil executive, now reformed, because he decided he didn't need more. He could just, truth was all he needed. Reunited with his son, and his son delivers like the perfect, like, Daddy. My woke toddler just told me line. The child, I don't remember the line the child says, but it's literally like, Daddy, I'm so glad that you're no longer under the thrall of fake news, and that you realize it's something insane like that. Then Gal Gadot gets hit on by a gay guy, or she hits on a gay guy in a Christmas market. And like, there's just like no reason for this scene.
They go from 4th of July to Christmas.
Yeah.
I like that, because I approve of anything that features Christmas, even though she calls it holiday and says happy holiday.
Yeah. Jewish.
I like the ending with the Christmas little market. whatever, and the original Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
Totally pointless. Okay, Orton, you always say you don't like any endings. What's an example of an ending that works for you that you think is good or as good as an ending can be?
Let's all be quiet for a little while.
I mean, Sopranos obviously just ends.
That's perfect.
That's
perfect
what
ending.
everything should do, though. Even that one like builds up and makes
Out
you wonder
one
what
just
happens.
ends.
Yeah, like basically pretty much everything should just like run out in the film reel. Should just like
No, the Who Shot JR subplot.
Oh yeah, soap operas legitimately never end. Like that's good that they're never tied up.
No, but that was like, but I mean, in terms of like, you know, waking up he's in the shower. It was all a dream.
Oh yeah, it was all. That's one of the most masterful things that's ever been done in any art form ever. To me, is like the retconning of that whole 30 hours of content as having not existed and been in Pam's head.
Yep.
And that was the best season of Dallas, by the way. So they made the best season of Dallas fake and a dream, but like that kind of thing is really brilliant and works on me. Actually,
I feel like there's something we've covered on the show that had a good ending. But yeah, pretty much everything should just cut in the middle of a word. Like there should be like a click where they cut it so badly and just slam into the credits. Like that should just be it.
A lot of those British zombie movies, was it 28 Days Later and 28 Weeks Later or whatever?
Yeah.
They both, I think, ended pretty abruptly, kind of mid-scene, and given they were already doing a lot of like fast jump cuts and handheld, like desaturated work.
During like a helicopter. And
yeah, they just get in the helicopter and it's just like clunk. I think the door of the helicopter closes and like done. Credits roll. Perfect.
Yeah.
Like, what else do you need? I don't need any further exposition. I get it.
Also, can we just explain how the part with the son and the dad screaming to each other lasted like 10 minutes long? It was like trying to do like the Rocky Horror, like Dr. Scott, where no one's actually hearing each other, and it's like, why? You can just say this once. Like we don't need to like, and I don't feel anything for this child. This child's in a world where everyone's gonna die. Like I don't give a fuck about this.
This child. There are nuclear bombs being launched, and they're trying to make us feel something for this child. Who, yes, is you're right. It is exactly the Janet, Dr. Scott, just over and over again. It is probably 10 full minutes of them just sort of calling out to each other in the middle of a CGI vortex.
Yeah.
It's a lot, and the cuts back and forth between their faces is would be comical. Actually, I kind of want to just go like put different music over it, and I think it'd become a very funny scene.
It's just this whole thing, you know, which I guess is the best movie of 2021 that I've seen so far. This whole thing just makes me really wish that Gal Gadot herself could transport back to the 80s, where she would have the career she deserves, where she's starring in like R-rated, like directed by John Milius, like sword and sorcery things, where she gets like raped and like Bush and she's naked and like there's horrible violence, and like adults were still going to see movies for a particular reason, that they wanted to see something exciting rather than like you just literally now want to get out of the house. Like you just want to go to another location to sit and stare at a screen.
Who is this for? Like earlier, Gian, you said that this was like a children's movie, which is true because it's like a superhero. But like that lesbian scene, when I didn't know if they were going to go there, I was like, oh, is modern Wonder Woman a lesbian?
Yeah, she's queer coded as everything must be.
Who is this for? Like, is it for like 30-year-olds? Is it just
it's designed by algorithm? It literally will be that they like looked at it'll be like the streaming, you know, the streaming demographic or like analytics they get out of the streaming platforms. They'll be like, all right, you know, people who like Gal Gadot also like, you know, have watched 2 episodes of The L Word. They watched the first 2 Spider-Man movies, but not the one after that.
Yeah. They're lipstick lesbians who have children and can't find a babysitter. And they're like, well, I guess we'll take you to this movie as well. Mom's going to like get off to like Gal Gadot having like the flattest face in television and like acting very lesbian. While you
I just love how oblivious she is. Yeah. Like, it's really admirable how she really just walks through this and doesn't even seem aware that she's in a movie. Like at all. Like they just kind of have the big cue card with her reading her little fortune cookie lines like off in some corner. And she's just, but the immortal line from this movie that they should have put on the poster is the ha ha ha, I haven't laughed like that in a long time.
So here's my proposal in terms of punch ups for the rest of this franchise. We'll use this as, to move towards our close. We don't want to pull a Wonder Woman and just, keep doing epilogues, but I feel like this could go in several directions. One, I think, is that the next one of these movies, Tommy Wiseau should write, direct, and star in it, alongside Gal Gadot, because I think that energy would be unbeatable. Because Lars von Trier is cancelled now, and Gal Gadot sort of seems to be oblivious to like woke code and doesn't seem to be able to perform well, she will be the only like Hollywood female star who will star in the next Lars von Trier film. So I think Lars von Trier presents Wonder Woman 3.
Well, they should just make it like the third Dogville movie where she's just walking around like the Brechtian set with like the lines on it.
Yeah.
That would be like legitimately good, because like that's why like Lars von Trier, when he developed his reputation for like torturing women and like getting the best performance of their careers out of them, like that's what he was doing. He was taking like Nicole Kidman or whatever and like torturing them until they like like gave the most amazing performance ever. And that's something we've lost. Yeah. And like I was actually thinking that as I was watching this, it was like she would be really good in a Woody Allen movie. Yeah. As actresses used to do. She would be really good. Any kind of like cool director.
Kubrick. She could have been an Eyes Wide Shut. Would have been.
Yeah, she could have been an Eyes Wide Shut. She could have been the one that says stop. Like she just needs some kind of cool director to like tell her what to do, and like she already is very just a likable person. Like
yeah. It could be like Wonder Woman 1992.
Or they should just like make the Monster and Wonder Woman Patty Jenkins franchises like intersect. So like the next one, like she's like made up like Charlize Theron, like Eileen Wuornos, given the like black psycho contacts, and like she has to gain 30 pounds and like freckles and all of this. Like they should just. Who cares? Movies are over. Why not do that? Like,
I wouldn't mind if they just had her go on girl dates. Like that part was cute.
Yeah,
that would be cute. Yeah,
or maybe the magic would run out because you'd be like, they're never gonna do it.
Well, I mean, that's what the L Word was, and that was that. Like the L Word was like this kind of actress, like paired like a Barbie doll, like mashed up against each other with other actresses that looked like this, like Jennifer Beals, and like. The good part of the L Word was that. The bad part was the like social engineering, like keeping compliant with woke code stuff. But the best part was just like Gal Gadot type actresses mashed up against each other like Barbie dolls.
I'm excited for the Pornhub version of Wonder Woman 1984. We're just like hardcore lesbian scenes throughout the whole movie.
You think it'd be like Bob Guccione presents Wonder Woman 1984, just like cutting in hardcore.
They're spying on Helen Mirren with, through a little peephole, and then they have lesbian.
Yeah. Actually, holy shit! I just realized, fuck, I need to go edit something for Pornhub now, because I realized the initial Amazon scenes, like the Amazonian warrior women cut in with Caligula, would be incredible.
I'm just imagining this like transposed to the podcast format, because like we both have our cameras off and y'all have your camera on. So like they could just like cut to the Bob Guccione scene of like some other twinks like watching through a peephole having hardcore sex.
That's exactly how we're going to release the video version of this episode.
Look, what else are people going to do? Like, just do it. Like, that's the thing, is like everything's over. Why don't people just do the Wonder Woman and monster crossover? Like, who cares?
Yeah, nothing matters anymore. So just, as we come to our end, What are you guys up to on the Perfume Nationalist these days? I know you've had a little bit of you had an 8-hour marathon episode.
9
It was
hours.
9 hours.
Oh,
9
I'm
hours.
sorry. I'm sorry. Who's counting though? Am I right, fellas?
8 hours and 52 minutes.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
so
that's
blackout.
important.
I'm not ashamed to admit I made it about 4 hours in, and I haven't.
Wow,
finished
you're
it.
the only person, because literally everybody else, it amazes me. Everybody else on the face of the earth listened to the whole 9 hours.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I couldn't believe it. I was like, we can put out something like this, but I don't think anybody except for like maybe 10 people will listen to it. But no, like it had the intended effect where people actually did want to be able to say they listened to the whole thing.
No, I want to be able to say I did. I haven't yet.
Well, you're halfway there almost.
Living on a prayer.
Yeah, you're halfway there. But
We took a podcast break. Do you guys do that? It's dangerous in the current market, but ideally it would be normalized somehow, because you do kind of go crazy.
I needed a break. I had to have a few weeks where I didn't think about it. And we still put out 9, 10, 11. We put out 11 hours of content in December to, that was paywall to keep people subscribed.
Right.
But I like the practice of dividing podcasts into seasons, even though our seasons are entire years. They still do have very different feelings and themes and everything. And for people that are following the whole thing, they'll probably get something out of that. And when I think of something like Come Town, which you can't ever tell which episode you listen to or what year it was or anything except for the first early ones, I do think it serves a purpose. But yeah, I just needed a break. And also, since our show requires more pieces to put together, sending people the perfumes and everybody watching the movie or reading the book or whatever, it's legitimately time consuming.
Right.
And so we can't just record a bunch of episodes a week.
Yeah.
Have you guys taken a break? Y'all, I know y'all traveled a few, or was that 1,000 years ago? I don't know, but have y'all taken a break?
We'll pre-record when we go on trips, which usually they're all a week or so. It's hard to do because sometimes we do a week versus 2, which we started doing during COVID. But
and you've been streaming?
We stream.
Well,
So
the thing is, we reached episode 69, and I was really, really ready to take a break. I was just I was feeling very over needing to be engaged enough in the discourse in order to be able to do the podcast that I was fuck it. I just want to go sit in my garden and just
Not
can
say
grow
anything?
tomatoes, not mumble into a microphone, not get yelled at for yelling.
I want to be asked on other people's podcasts. That's what I like doing during this time is the break. I'm fine with going on other people's podcasts where somebody else has to kind of drive it forward.
Oh yeah. No. So we took a break, but it ended up being 1 week before we started season 2.
Yeah.
Because I can't remember. It's something happened where it was fuck, this is kind of our bread and butter, and we have something to say
I
about
didn't
this.
think y'all had taken a break. It seemed like you were really hustling.
No,
And
we do. We just keep going. Yeah.
we're especially when all this stuff's been going on. It's the height of what we've been waiting for, because 2020 has been such a bore for political and cultural commentary, where it's finally something's going on we can talk
Something
about.
happened. Yeah, there was nothing happening.
Yeah.
I also in terms of dividing our show into seasons, I like choosing a thematically appropriate end point. And last season where we ended with Gone with the Wind, which was, I think, the best episode we've ever done. What?
I was just saying, well, really?
Well, really? No, I do. That's my favorite
good.
episode we've ever done. I chose that as a thematic endpoint to the year for a reason. There's not always an overarching logic to everything that we do, but I try to kind of make things have maximal importance in that way, where Gone with the Wind was scheduled a week after the election. And like also another thing for me is that I plan things so far in advance that it like takes like months and months to really like accomplish all that I've set out to do. So like after we finished season 2, I was just like exhausted and like didn't want to think about movies or like cultural commentary or anything like that, because I had planned all of that like 4 months in advance or something. And yeah, I guess it's just different if you like do a show that's not just like people come out and talk about whatever.
Yeah.
Like I want it to be about like certain like media.
Yes. Yeah. No. You impressively, I think, probably the longest planning ahead cycle of any podcast I've ever heard.
Yeah. Everybody
Really?
like will DM me and be like, I want to come on the show, and I'm like, well, there's a slot in like 3 months.
Yeah.
And they're really shocked to find that out.
Yeah, no, we've had obviously friends and lovers of ours who have been delighted to be invited on, and they're like, yeah, I'm going on in March or something. we literally like we're in the DMs with our guests like the night before, like, oh yeah, you come on tomorrow if you want, or like whatever.
No, we're like old and can't. I guess for podcasters we're old. I'm 33,
Same age.
like and Orton has a baby.
I have a 1-year-old. The kid at the end when he reunited with his dad, it did get me. I was
so now we know who this movie was for.
It totally got me, and I did enjoy this.
But we're coming back full time next week.
Okay.
We're releasing an episode every week.
Well, and you guys mostly release on Patreon, right? I mean, I know you're on all. We're all
yeah,
the
we're considering the current climate, just trying to wait it out and see if we're still on Patreon, but yeah, I'm like not tweeting for a few weeks, any takes or anything. But yeah, we're on Patreon. We do every other episode is paywalled. The next one will be about Lucchino Visconti's Death in Venice and The Damned, and also we'll finally talk about Dr. Zhivago and the Music Lovers, which, spoiler alert, in our 9-hour episode about Dr. Zhivago, we never talk about it.
I was wondering, honestly.
Yeah, no, we never talked about it. Say something at the end, but that's it. That was part of the fun of it.
Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Always fun.